SFJ 4x4 Studios presents
in my oversized four-wheel drive Jeep.
a Jeep podcast starring industry experts.
Pure monosity. What? Say that again.
With mad scientist Scott Brown,
Use my drill press as a sort of lathe.
our host Neil Simpson,
If one light goes out, they all go out.
filled with shenanigans.
We are really professional with Jeeps.
This is I Speak Jeep.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever, however you are joining us. This is the I Speak Jeep podcast presented by SFJ4x4.com. My name is Neil.
Hey, sure of that.
I am sure of that with SFJ4x4 Simpson Family Jeeps. And
And I'm obviously the mad scientist.
we are in Grandma's Couch Studio. Sans producer.
Yep.
The Italian Stallion is off doing brewery things. I don't know. That's his full-time gig now, folks. That's what he does.
Yep.
So he has left us high and dry. We're running the show. We've got the reins. Things are going too well for us right now. So I'm sure there's
going to blow up.
so there's going to be some major calamity when it comes to production.
The only thing that's going wrong is I can't talk today. So just putting that out there.
which is really
You're
which-
just owning it, I think, is
This
just
is-
part of the thing.
which is really nothing new.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, there's been a number of words that have absolutely come out mishmash for you.
Absolutely.
It will be a
And we'll tie that into our topic today about
I can't
you'll
wait.
have to wait and see.
So, as a quick precursor for those who are listening, want to know what to expect a little bit today, we are going to be talking a little bit about technological advances.
Mhm.
We obviously have to touch on Toledo Jeep Festival
Mhm.
this past weekend, and we're going to be talking about the Jeep that we took to TJF 2026. So we're going to be talking a good bit about that, but then we're going to progress and maybe scratch at the surface of some of the electrical situations that are plaguing our most modern Jeeps,
Yep.
and what that future may hold
Mhm.
for folks. And then we're going to equally in there touch upon a major event that's happening right here in Conneaut, Ohio, which while is not Jeep centric,
It's very Jeep.
it's very
Integrated.
Jeepy.
Yeah.
It's very Jeepy.
And I've already had to field like 1,000 questions of people seeing green Jeeps and thinking they're just all green Jeeps.
Correct. And so we've got a lot of territory to cover today. I'm
Yep.
excited to cover said territory. And then if you are inclined to know what is happening in our personal lives, you'll want to hang on through the outro. Now, here's the thing. Things are going too well. We've got we came up the starting soon. I got all the things and the stuff.
Everybody was on time.
Right. I don't know that we're going to have the outro noise, so you may or may not, right? We'll see if I can actually figure that out. However, we'll jump over to the comments here. Nathan first saying good morning. Billy Joe saying good morning. Joe O'Brien. Nate is cheating. I somehow he is.
I think he has a camera or something. That
he knows when we're going to go live.
Yeah.
Giaga Jeepers, morning, guys. Bill McWilliams, good morning. Jeannie says, good morning to you all. So excited, getting ready for the Smoky Mountain Jeep invasion. Hope to see all of the folks there. Nathan says, no producer. Well, there goes the show. Catch you all next week. That's fair. That's fair. Let me put on my clown nose and hair at the moment. We'll see where we go. Rob Morgan says, good morning. Bill McWilliams says, off the rails. And Nathan says, you mean the major event that is my 40th birthday at the end of the month. You know, I feel like it's August people. August people, for whatever reason, celebrate their birthday
The entire
month. It's more August than not. I understand that there's a selection of humans who celebrate their birthday month long. It's their birthday month. It is my personal opinion, and I stand upon this soapbox, and I shout to the people that it is the August people who celebrate their birthday all month long.
See, when I was growing up, I would be excited about my birthday, and my dad would always be like, meh.
Yeah.
I just have to pay the state more money.
You and
because
your
I got older.
plate registration.
And now I'm at the point where I'm like, whatever. I don't
Listen.
I don't want to have to pay them all this money.
I was boggled because well, let's be honest, I didn't renew all my stuff as timely as I should. However,
doing Neil things.
Yeah, right. However, I was tickled because I've gotten rid of some things.
Yeah.
I actually saved money this year when I did all of my registrations. Interesting fun fact, folks, that in our little our township here, our municipality, our city is actually a city. You actually, even if you have junk sitting in your yard, you're supposed to have it legally registered. It's a way that they can keep you from having like true, authentic piles of junk sitting around vehicles.
Why it keeps his things out of the.
So that's why I hide some at Scott's, some in the back of the barn, whatever, But when I had a couple project vehicles sitting around the shop, I had them registered.
Yep.
And now that I don't have those vehicles, no registrations. I saved money.
Yeah.
Not only did I sell them, I saved money. I'm tickled. All right. So Toledo Jeep Festival on the wrap. It's all done. All Dunsky, ready to rock and roll. On to the next thing is what I'm sharing. And what a fantastic event it was. Okay. If you didn't see all the coverage, I don't know how you didn't, right? You had to have been under a Jeep rock, because the coverage was immense this year.
How much drool did you leave on that Comanche that was inside the Seagate?
Oh, wow. Right? Just
none of ours were that nice.
Nobody. Nobody. So I think it's important because folks, I want you to follow along in my crazy squirrel-esque natured brain. I do see a complete kind of a storyline here of both Toledo and the production of the Jeep, right? Of the Jeep and the electrical sensitivity of which we know all of our Wranglers and Gladiators today. And so all of this reasonably is tied together in my brain. And so hopefully I can take you on this voyage. And if you don't know, I'll say the quiet stuff out loud. Toledo Jeep Festival is special because that is where the OG Jeep was built. I don't take anything from Bantam. Butler, Pennsylvania is where Bantam Car Company was.
Yeah, the BRC was made.
And the conceptualization of the quarter-ton light duty vehicle that the actual government, contracted, and Bantam stepped up in a big way and made it real, right? Because Ford and Willys were not doing that.
I'm gonna do something for the Jeep nerds out there.
Yes.
Toledo is where we got an accelerator pedal in our quarter ton.
Oh, that's cute.
Because the BRC was literally like a tractor.
Yes.
You set your throttle.
Yep.
And then you just tractored along.
Correct.
Because if you look in the area that Butler is, it makes perfect sense.
Perfect tractoring.
Perfect tractoring.
And
where Toledo even then was more city, and you needed to drive something.
You needed to drive. It was a production hotbed for the auto industry.
Yep.
And while Western Pennsylvania had its own slew of independent small manufacturers,
absolutely,
nowhere in the country was Detroit proper, right? Yeah. Was greater Detroit. It just is what it is. From Flint to the north to Toledo Mommy to the south.
Absolutely.
Nowhere in the country on our automotive history did we have as much manufacturing prowess as that 2 hour, 3 hour radius area.
And you got to remember, Indiana's also involved with the Brickyard where you would go and test things. That's also why I think you have so many trailer manufacturings pop up in Indiana.
Correct.
Because you just had this need. Michigan sort of created the need, and then those surrounding areas had
100%.
Support.
Because I think when and I don't know this factually. I don't have a great vibe for it, but I'm fairly certain that if I hit from Detroit to Chicago, that's within a 3-hour radius span. And I know,
Depending on
saying
traffic.
yeah, yeah,
and
no
bridge
doubt.
tolls.
But and Michael says good morning, Mitch. Mitch Hunt and Mickey, they might actually be able to weigh in because they're more, in that territory for us. We've got somebody, Ivan says, "What's up, fellas?" Leslie Ann, good morning, and Nathan says, "Electrical issues, never." And so with that, as what you're saying right there is, you're right. Not only did we have the specific, the hotbed of manufacturing, but then we had parts and pieces of that manufacturing.
Absolutely.
The part of the supply chain of manufacturing and distribution. How does Jeff sit at his mic is turned up so nice and crisp. His headphones are all twisted. Blame Jeff, DJ. God
Well, if you
bless it.
turned them around, then the cord would be not across you; it'd be over.
Well,
there.
he told me that this cord's supposed to be on the left-hand side, so I'm just doing what the producer told me to do
I do what
eons
I
ago.
want.
Rebel without a cause.
Mine's on the right side. I don't
All right.
care.
So, and you're right, because Elkhart falls right within that combination.
Absolutely.
We're right off that primary Route 20, I-90 corridor, depending on where you're at in American history. Route 6, coming east and west, down to St. Louis. That whole hotbed. So, Jeep, as it's conceptualized, and of course, we owe a lot of that to Willis, and his, geographic location. And eventually Willys Overland, and obviously Ford being the highly influential manufacturer that he and they were back.
But they did not make or design the Jeep. They
just improved upon the manufacturing process.
They took the Willys design, made it slightly better.
Despite what that gentleman at the Ford that video that was circulating,
he needs to sit down.
I want to reach out to them and be like, why is your docent telling people that Ford made the Jeep? Like, there's an authority in the Ford museum.
You know what they did? They made it less quality because they had somebody making slat grills with care and dedication.
Yes.
And Ford was like, that takes too much time. Let's just stamp it.
We can stamp it. And if you don't know what we're talking about, there was a video that had surfaced about 3 months ago or so, certainly when it crested my radar. Yeah, it was rage bait for me, for sure.
Yeah.
But ultimately, this guy was serious as a heart attack, and he was telling, his museum goers that Ford created the Jeep, which just factually not true.
No.
They created their own version, but it is not the Jeep we know and love.
And they used tractor parts.
All right. So, with that said, Toledo Jeep Festival is, special and unique because there are so many unique stories of Jeeps held within that community.
Yep.
And I say community, I mean the actual geographic community, not simply the Jeep community as a whole, but
it's
that area.
Quick derail. Something that I just experienced in the shop is we have an 84 CJ7 in for restoration. And this customer is nerding out on all the dates and the little things you find as you tear a Jeep apart. And he's like, do you think we could figure out what production plant it was built in? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
There's two.
Yeah. We figure that out.
It's
pretty
either,
easy.
It either says A and likes really strong coffee, or it was built in Ohio.
Right.
And he had no idea.
Yes.
Which,
interesting.
For us, that's just like we learned at like age 2.5.
Correct. Correct. No, I get it. And other people, who are just kind of starting their Jeep journey might not be as well versed in kind of the authenticity, the great spirit of the Jeep culture and its kind of birthplace right here in Ohio.
And maybe we're weird. I know
no,
we
are. That's
but I think it's cool to take your vehicle back to its birthplace. Do not others think this is cool, or is this just a Neil and Scottism?
I don't know. I mean, this is the problem. I actually had this conversation a lot, kind of on a human level, that oftentimes we think of human interactions through our perspective.
Yeah.
Right. But that's not how everybody else's perspective is.
Yeah.
You know, they bring whatever baggage they've experienced in life to this conversation, and then that's what they hear it through those earmuffs.
Yeah.
You know.
So you have to let me know in the comments.
All right. Does anybody else think it's cool to take their Jeep back to its birthplace?
Yeah.
I
think
love that.
I
right.
think it's awesome.
So when it comes to this particular show, and just to kind of backtrack it, as we mentioned in the previous last week's podcast, 2017 was its first conceptualization. It was very much like a touristy, local politician. Hey, we should do something.
Yeah.
It took a year off in 18, came back with a vengeance in 19.
Yep.
COVID shut down the world in 2020.
Yep.
We did not participate. If they did have something, don't know. In 17, if you were part of the community or not, the JK was well within its fever pitch, right? I mean, arguably by 15 to 17, the world of owning a JK had changed the automotive market.
All the minivans were getting traded in on JK.
110%, right? and people who had never thought about owning a Jeep or only had conceptualized like, hey, that's a cool vehicle, but I could never.
Yeah.
Could all of a sudden do it, right? And the clubs exploded and everything changed. And Toledo, somebody had a bright idea and was like, hey, we should call attention to this historical relevancy.
Yep.
Okay. So the funny thing is we've been involved arguably at every level of this since its reasonable conceptualization.
Yep.
And it's been an adventure. I can confidently tell our listeners home, our lives who are involved here, this was probably the biggest, best TJF yet. This event just continues to grow.
Yep.
The community continues to be very excited about it.
And we had said it before, but I'll say it again because for those that maybe didn't hear it, this is cool because we have people running it and involved in it that are right from the corporate level.
Correct.
They have worked for the mothership and are now retired or are very closely associated to that group. Like this is who they have coffee with,
Yes.
go out to dinner with, and they're all Jeep enthusiasts.
So I'm going to do a hard stop and say that Jeep corporate, as we currently know it, has a hard line between themselves and the show up until a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Right. So while everything that Scott said is accurate, people who have been around it for, again, Jeep turned 85 years old, right? This year. There people who live in this community who are attending the show, their granddaddy worked originally at the factory.
Yep.
Or their grandma worked in the cafeteria back in the 50s and the 60s. They have stories of the original manufacturing community, right?
Yep.
They're associated in some capacity. That area, it's as if you like walk through like a Stargate, and all of a sudden you're immersed in this hotbed of authenticity of the Jeep product line. And these people know the vehicle in and out at a stock level, right? So much of our audience and what we do is about modification, restoration, resto-modding, these fun things we do after the sale of the vehicle. But this is all about that high quality point of conceptualization, research and development, federal regulation, and then the care that it takes to mass manufacture vehicles and then get people excited to buy them, right? It's different. It's different than what we do on a daily basis. And so, interestingly enough, is that Jeep corporate, and I say this as Neil Simpson saying this, and I Speak Jeep podcast, was intimidated by, I don't know, maybe not intimidated, threatened, because they're so trademark sensitive. They're so,
absolutely.
They're so, hey, you can like Jeep, Jeep, capital J, you can like it, but you have to give us some royalties, right? We're such a litigious society, somewhere between the 80s and the early 2000s.
And I think it was just the main, as we've talked again before, there's just a change of the guard. again, when it started, it was a bunch of retirees from in the mothership. Well, what happened around that time? Well, they went in the Mercedes and they went in the Fiat and that kind of stuff. So you had change of the big, it's from the top down,
The very, very tippy top down.
right? Change, and there was a change of the guard. So
It was less centralized American manufacturing, and now it had this global Euro vibe, right?
correct.
We
It was
have-
less of like, well, hey, I'm worried about this. Let's call George and we'll express it. To now, it's an actual letterhead, mass email kind of experience.
And it's important to note that, I mean, within the world at which we live, and you may or may not be familiar with these folks, copyrights, royalty infringements, that kind of stuff is real. If you show up at an event and you are deliberately infringing upon one of these corporate entities.
Real quick sidebar, just because it's fun. They're making a Buc-ee's in
Yeah.
our general area.
Yes.
And
I can talk at length about this.
and
I'm obsessed with this.
there was another business that referenced a beaver,
Beaver Mart.
and they got a cease and desist.
They did. It is
'Cause-
Beaver Mart, located in Beaver Creek, Ohio.
Yeah,
Folks, if you're not following this story, which I am,
of course you are.
it's a doozy because
They owned a beaver.
it actually, and it's an interesting thing that you brought this up, because I don't know how I'm going to possibly get through to electrical diagnosis, because now I'm too excited about this.
Yeah.
Because at first, I'm totally jumped on the viral trend of like down with Buc-ee's.
Yeah.
Okay, even though I support Walmart, I support Buc-ee's. I'm all
not
about
gonna lie. I was like,
Home
oh,
Depot.
cool. I don't have to drive 3 states away to go experience this.
Totes. Totes for goats, man.
Everybody's like, oh, you gotta go try this. You gotta go try that. It's like, cool. And then I heard them crapping on this
On Beaver Mart.
on Beaver Mart,
Yep.
and I'm like,
And so actually
Really?
what all of these local businesses did, they utilized, graphic design and AI and however, and they redid all of their logos to include a beaver. I actually had briefly, other than the fact that we're so stretched thin,
Yeah.
last week played with putting a beaver in our logo, right? To see if anybody online would get it, right?
Yeah.
Because like, how ridiculous would that be?
yep,
And then I fell further down the rabbit hole, and it literally has to do with our highest federal regulatory bodies. And the owner at Beaver Creek has a I don't want to call it a royalty, a copyright, a patent. I'm missing the actual word, but it gives him the ability to franchise, and it is a legal splitting hairs technicality that he actually filed when Buc-ee's. You can, if you love a product line enough, you can go in and you can find out what that company is going to be doing in 6 months, a year,
Yeah.
2 years from now, right?
Whatever they
what they're
copyright.
probably going to be doing, right? Conneaut, Ohio is probably going to be getting a Tractor Supply.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't have it. They haven't exactly broken ground. They've painted a building.
I've seen them move stuff around.
No doubt.
Yeah.
But you could go in and create a filing. This is what the owner at Beaver Mart did. He went in and created a filing that allows him to franchise Beaver Mart and his logo in such a way that would allow him to benefit from Buc-ee's. Basically, the Home Depot Lowe's model, the O'Reilly's advanced AutoZone model,
Yep.
that it would, in theory, allow him to ride the coattails of Buc-ee's and put a Beaver Mart next to Buc-ee's. Now, this is just a Jim Bob average guy with a small box store, right?
Yeah.
This is not somebody who's going to actually do that, but it's how his paperwork is filed.
Yep.
And he was refusing to come to the table with Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's was like, hey, come to the table, talk about this. We'll help you file so that you cannot infringe upon us.
Yeah.
And he didn't. And then it wasn't until Buc-ee's threw around their weight that a lawyer for them on like the last day of the 90-day cease and desist order responded. And now they're at the table having conversations.
Yeah.
But it has to do with illegal ease, which is actually a fair tie-in to the fact that Jeep is very protective, right? When the Hummer tried to come in with its grill structure and its round headlight.
How dare it be semi-related?
Mahindra in 17, which actually Mahindra Roxor, when the 17 Mahindra Roxor came out, it utilized a stamped Willys grill.
How dare they had bought stuff from Willys back in the day?
They actually were a manufacturer for Willys. They literally have the patents.
Yeah.
You know?
They weren't friends anymore.
They weren't. So Jeep has to protect themselves from the highest level to the lowest levels. And I actually can tell you a story that they actually shut down a little old lady who was selling sugar cookies.
Of course they were.
They came in and they said, unless you give us, unless you followed the right X, Y, and Z, you need to pack up your sugar cookies and go.
Yeah.
Not this year, folks. Not this year, but previously.
And that's why we have the 9 slot and the 7 slot.
No doubt.
But then we have Cherokees with 10 slots. So.
Oh, that's confusing. All right. So, yeah, trademark. Geauga Jeepers weighed in. That's the only word that I didn't produce was trademark. Fantastic. So, Toledo is this peculiar balancing act. And what has happened is they have come to the table sufficiently. We're now...
they're like, hey, this is actually benefiting us.
And these are good people here, okay?
Yeah. We're friends.
We're now friends again. We're now friends again. And let's be absolutely transparent. Jeep specific sales have absolutely been in the toilet the last couple of years. They were on a steady decline,
which we've talked about.
Which we've talked at length about.
And we have axes to grind.
And they axed the guy in charge, and North American Dealer Association.
Well, they had singing he had to do.
Carlos. so the new leadership has come out in such immense support. And to full circle back to your conversation about that beautiful Comanche that I was drooling over.
Mm-hmm.
And to talk about the fact that we got bumped from our normal location within the convention center.
So we were actually referencing this before podcast. We have gotten bumped at least 3 times that our crappy memories can remember. Because there is so much Jeep content crap up there.
Yeah.
We don't have room for other stuff.
Bumped meaning, hey, this is normally how we operate, and then all of a sudden we show up and something's different.
Yes.
Right? We get bumped. But we've literally, the bumping has happened, and in this specific situation, and because of that Comanche, because Jeep Chrysler Corporate is actually who bumped me.
Yeah.
Right? When I showed up to set the Jeep up. And if you're going to get bumped by somebody,
we've gotten bumped by pretty cool individuals.
We've got bumped by pretty cool individuals, right? Fred Williams bumped me bumped a build of ours a couple years ago. It's like, if you're going to get bumped, at least it's worthwhile.
I still say it's Jeep bumped us twice now.
I think Jeep Corporate has bumped us twice.
Yeah.
But again, as lovingly constructive criticism as I like to sow out into the world, I'm okay getting bumped by them because we appear to have a decent distance working relationship.
Yeah,
right.
We haven't gotten any cease to desist.
Not hockey on wood. And honestly, I promise you, there have been things that we have talked about, whispers in the winds, that things then materialize.
I know.
In a corporate degree. So I'm just gonna take it for what it is.
They're definitely listening.
It's whatever, right? They are. So, Jeep Chrysler sent 3 tractor trailers this year. 3. Last year, we thought it was a big deal when they filled up almost 2. This year, they sent 3 full auto transports full of vehicles. They brought an entire row, 8, 9 vintage vehicles alone.
Yep.
And those were all provided by the Chrysler Museum.
Makes me sad that some of them were vintage, though.
Yeah. And they were stunning, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
that Comanche, for example.
Yep.
They were stunning. And then, and inside the Glass City Convention Center, which was formerly called the Seagate Convention Center, and I had to place my first Jeep inside there was when it was called Seagate, and it was Old Blue was on display. And there was more Jeeps in there. It was open to more. Now it's even more select, right? Yes. And to say that we And you as a builder, as the primary builder on the M38, should have this like glowing sense of pride. The fact that your Resto Mod M38, which has taken years to complete, is sitting along Jeep Chrysler's own possessions.
Absolutely.
Is such a stunning and cool thing.
Absolutely. And the look around at the other people and
The caliber of
vehicles.
other vehicles.
I mean, we have, the extended cab J truck, which you just
the unicorn.
can't. I love it so much.
Yep.
I want to build one of my own.
Yep.
It was such a cool caliber of vehicles to be around.
And so this is a great conversation to continue us moving forward, because I could probably spend the entire time talking about Toledo as a whole, but
Probably.
but ultimately all of their prototypes, all of the concept, the EJS and other concept vehicles, I think they sent every single concept they had. They had a couple in the convention center with us, but then the rest of them were just lined up, ready to go for the mass, the public, to just walk by, touch, look at, be involved with.
Yep.
They have responded in such an immense way to say, hey, Jeep community, we see you and we want to be there for you.
Yep.
And it's mad respect in that situation. Now, as far as the other attendees within the convention center, it was a great example of vintage to modern and unique Jeeps. They all have stories to tell, or Jeep-based vehicles. If you look at some of my pictures, you might see a 2-seater tractor, and I love these tractors. They were actually built, and they're not the only manufacturer, but they were one of the prime manufacturers.
Empire?
Yes. Completely with Jeep parts.
Yeah.
Spare post-World War II Jeep parts.
Yep.
And
It's really coming full circle at that point.
100%.
Because the only vehicle that wasn't Jeep tractor based was the Willis.
Yep.
MA. It was more of a car.
Yep.
And then what did they do? They made a tractor with those
extra parts and pieces. They bought it, and they, interestingly enough, in a great history piece on that particular tractor. So, I mean, it has the 134, it has the T90.
Yep.
It even has a Jeep rear end, which I couldn't exactly differentiate whether it was a 41 or a 44.
And it has a transfer case, too. It's just
It does have a transfer case, but it only has a rear output.
Yep.
No front, right?
They're using it for the gear reduction.
And then it drops into portal axles.
Yep.
That's the only thing that's kind of unique to the tractor. Otherwise, they utilize surplus Jeep drivelines.
Yep.
And surplus Navy ship pieces that were manufactured in the area, and to make the decking, to make the fenders. They actually took those pieces and cut them down to make the tractor parts.
Yep.
So cool. There's 7,000 of these tractors slated to be made or on order. 6,600 are actually made. About 328 are known to be in existence. That type of history, that type of story.
You always know you're at a good Willis event when there's at least one of those there.
At least.
Yeah.
And there was, other awesome vehicles present within the convention center. Now, likewise, it's the people who are hanging out around these vehicles as well, who have these stories to tell. They are oftentimes the people who are related to that firsthand manufacturing. And so within reason, the reason the M38 stands out significantly, and while there were other military vehicles there, they were not at the same caliber of restorative process that our M38 was done at.
And we got to look at it from a different point of view that I think military vehicles don't get to experience very often. They kind of are always in the, it must be back the way it exactly was or else. And you can do both. You can have pay a homage to the original idea and also kind of make it a little better.
Correct. And our Jeep is a particularly unique story. And I do have to take a quick moment and do a shout out to Crown Automotive for being a major supporter, part supplier, and ultimately SEMA sponsor of this Jeep as we get it to Las Vegas to show it on one of the biggest automotive stages in the world.
Yep.
Coming up in a couple months, and you know, what's unique about it is the fact that it took many years to do. The owner was incredibly patient,
Yeah.
and he allowed.
And I want to qualify. It was about 4.5 years.
Mhm.
Most restoration shops I know, your vehicle is there for 5 to 10.
Agreed.
And we keep referencing, well, it took us a while. Nope, it took us less than the average
Correct.
restoration shop.
And that's a true full nut and bolt restoration with quality modification, right? Not just
and
back to stock.
Saving the original body.
100%. All custom handwork,
Yep.
metal work,
No patch panels.
no patch panels, hand built radio box where you handcrafted. I kept telling people about handcrafting this radio box that actually has Bluetooth connectivity in it now, not just buying some tchotchke piece.
Yep.
It's the stuff that makes it stand out. You machining the switches so as for them to operate and to do 12-volt services,
Yep.
right? And that's the piece that I want to then, kind of segue into some pieces that are unique about the Toledo area and how the Jeep world continues to march forward. What that Jeep could or would have been, that era, we had 6-volt technology,
Mm-hmm.
we had 24-volt technology,
Yep.
and we had 12-volt technology running simultaneous from the 20s to the 50s in the automotive industry.
Yep.
There wasn't a degree of standardization.
Right.
Is that fair? Is that right? I mean,
and again, a tie-in we'll get to. In World War II, we had all 3 voltages on the field trying to do things together.
correct.
And it was a nightmare.
It was a nightmare for our servicemen who were not trying to be mechanics per se,
Right.
but understanding DC voltage versus AC at a time when we're all kind of learning together as America.
And people, I don't think a lot know why they stuck with the 24 volt over the other 2 options
for military purposes.
for military purposes. I think it's because the big artillery and the really important pieces were 24 volt. Your tanks, I want to say even some of the ships and stuff like that were 24 volts. So they had more of a, it honestly takes more money to change around a tank and produce a tank than it is for just a little Jeep.
Correct.
So the troop carriers and the Jeeps had to bend to the will of the what the rest of the standard was.
Sure.
And that's why into the 50s, when the M38 was produced, you'll see all the vehicles that were military became 24 volt. Not only that, World War II Jeeps and civilian Jeeps, while with some, Vaseline on the lens, they are the same. There is a lot of differences, and they didn't have that carryover either. The M38, while they improved upon the civilian design, they went down the same line.
Mm-hmm.
They actually have stamps all over it with M's on it, so it's military.
Right.
Because the guy on the line had to be able cognizant and be like, oh,
Civilian versus
civilian,
military.
military.
And I think we need to plan a podcast in the near future where we just unpack this Jeep in its entirety.
Yep.
But I want to make sure that today's conversation is relevant to the, kind of what we've just recently encountered electrically wise and where
Yeah.
we're going with it. So this particular M38 was 24 volt. We have converted to 12 volt, which is the industry standard
Today.
at today, right? Across all vehicle platforms. Now, as we have moved into this age of electrification, we're starting to get a little crazy, right? Because we've got added electrical sensitivities and needs in the process. We have e-torque assist. We have hybrid. We have all this kind of
Well,
things.
and some of them, again, your multi-voltage, again, some are 36 volt with a 12 volt. Also, it's
We're a little bit in that uncharted territory.
Yeah.
We had a great degree of standardization up until about COVID, about
Mhm.
18 when the JL releases, and then shortly thereafter
So-
things start
so
to
what
get
you're s-
real wonky.
so what you're saying is we had too much free time, and the engineers got in and were like, since I have nothing to do, I'm going to think about this and see if I can change stuff.
And I'm going to engineer.
Yeah.
Engineers engineer. Yeah.
That's what happened.
So one of the things that stands out at the M38, and I even at the end when we moved it out, I fired it up, and the degree of electrical connectivity, and then it all kind of comes on clinking, and everything electrically starts. People noticed,
Mhm.
because otherwise, the systems were pretty rude.
Well, everybody else is over playing with their throttles and their chokes and trying to coax it into existence, where the more and more we drive this, it just boom.
Just fires up, sits there and idles.
Yeah.
Stunningly, because it is fuel injected, right? It's a 52 M38, and it is fuel injected, and it's all updated electricity, and it's this and it's that, and blah blah blah. So, that's what makes it extra stand out. Not just the craftsmanship that's apparent with the solid metal body and the good clean lines and the nice contrast paint and hardware and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the craftsmanship and the electrification of this particular Jeep, whereas all these other military Jeeps are dealing with whatever, whether it be 6 or 24 or 12, they're dealing with, kind of finicky carburetors. And, they're just dealing with a different era of technology.
Well, and I can't help but reference once upon a time we had a 44 MB in the shop, and we decided we wanted to rewire it stock. So we got a harness that was all cloth covered and appropriate colors and everything else. And the schematic that we received with this harness, which the harness was very well done.
Yes.
It was a piece of art.
The actual physical construction of the harness.
And that guy that made that harness knew what he was doing,
Mm-hmm.
but
And he cared deeply.
cared a lot. But trying to translate that knowledge
Into a paper instruction sheet.
was a struggle.
Lost in translation.
It was
like a
bad.
handwritten piece
It
of paper.
was.
It was a handwritten piece of paper with squiggly lines on it, folks.
That had been copied 15,000 times.
It was a copy of a copy. The guy could make a beautiful cloth insulated esque. It was more than cloth insulation,
Yeah.
but it made a beautiful harness, looking original, but could not sit down to a computer.
no,
Right?
could not.
And so as time marches on from what I like to call the breadbasket of manufacturing, from Bantam across Ohio to Toledo up into Detroit, Jeeps from their original conceptualization of kind of limited electrical needs and points ignition and other systems, we bridge that gap. We allow the electrical technological advances of today to start to blur the lines into vintage Jeeps. It's one of the things I'm probably most proud of. I say very boldly from my chest, I kind of promise there's no other Jeep-based business doing as many Holly Sniper installs.
Yeah.
And I've heard a number of people throwing around other vintage builders that are pretty huge, reputable builders while throwing our name into the same conversation. I don't think they're doing the sniper work that we're doing, right? They're
Yeah.
doing nice quality, rare one-off Jeeps. I get that, but they're not doing the sniper stuff or the fuel injection,
Or integrating it like
or integrating it the way we're doing it. So that's what makes us stand out. Now, we're doing that because we've seen a proven process through history over the 85 years of Jeep. And don't get me wrong, a finely tuned carburetor for your needs might be all you need. It might be. I'm not against that. Glenn Brown's CJ5, that carburetor is stunning and it runs beautifully. But you're not going to be able to drive that Jeep and just, run over to the Rocky Mountains, right?
Yeah.
Or to the mountains in West Virginia, even, for that matter.
Yep.
Elevation change, barometric pressure change, that's all going to affect that carbon rotator and how it operates. Jeep, as a manufacturer, has known that and has moved towards greater efficiency, both for consumer confidence and needs, and also federal regulations.
Well, we're just a different place than we used to be. Like I explain to people all the time, back when you had a carburetor and you needed it to function, so you went to work, you got up a little earlier. You went out, you started the car, you played with the choke, you set the idle, you allowed it to warm up. Then you got in it, and it might have coughed and fussed a little bit as you went down the road. And the gearbox might have been a little bit sticky because the oil was cold.
We just tolerated that.
Yeah.
I read a very nice, a person I'm acquainted to on social media. Her father just passed, and she was talking about how he took the back roads everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That was part of who he was. And she's always so busy racing around, moving from here to there, late to the next engagement.
Yep.
She takes the main drag, the fastest route, the GPS, reroute to get there the fastest.
Yep.
And how much of that in society have we made part of our lives, right?
Absolutely.
And she said, in her tribute, I'm gonna take a couple back roads for him. You know what I mean? I'm gonna try and make that more important to me.
But my point is even when we slow down, we are so programmed to go fast that we don't have the patience for that old world that we romance.
And you and I talked about it driving the FC 170.
Absolutely.
I mean, that Jeep runs and drives beautifully. It's about as technologically advanced as we want to make it while keeping original components in there. And it's still exactly the romance of a vintage 50s, early 60s vehicle.
Yep.
It's not jumping into your modern last 10, 15 year.
Perfect examples. We were, in the 170 going along, and you hit about 46 miles an hour, and the Jeep's like waving the white flag.
I'm good.
I'm good. I'm done. If you want to go a little bit slower, I will do this all day long. I was driving the M38 before, getting it ready for this show, and I'm just driving along. I'm not really paying a whole lot of attention. I look down, I'm doing over 50 miles an hour.
In a 52 M38.
And
which
it would have done more.
Years ago, I, as a person who owned and dailied that era of vehicle, that's not a thing.
No.
That's not a thing.
And I had to look at the little max speed, 45 miles an hour, stenciled on the windshield frame.
You kind of smile to yourself, right? And so in order for us to live this life, to do this thing, our vehicles have had to change, just like the Jeep manufacturing community has had to change, right? And so, and again, to circle back to why I like Toledo so much is that Toledo packages up both the history and the homage of where we came from, but
And
recognizing what's that?
And the innovation.
The innovation and saying, hey, this is where we're going. Now, on good accord, I'm going to drop this little nugget. On good accord, and this has to do with some of the Jeeps that we recently had into our shop, which I think we're going to expand upon a little bit.
Yep.
The electrical sensitivity and confusion that we are experiencing with our most modern electrical vehicles is not just on a personal level. So when you're on the social pages and people are talking about the bumps and the quirks and the the things that their Jeeps are doing,
and
that's not individualized.
And change is hard.
And change is hard. Some of it is how people relate to things. And so, like, you can get freaked out because you don't know what you don't know until you know it.
Yep.
So the moment that it dings while you're driving on the highway, I figured out why the Diesel Glad is dinging. Okay. Two, my wife's mall crawler, where it, goes no power steering and all the lights come on and the fan turns into a jet turbine and it shuts itself, basically shuts itself off on the side of the road, or doesn't shut itself off. There are these situations where, like, hey, one, your brain should go off and be like, danger, right? And the other one, you're like, it dinged, the TPMS is unhappy. MoveOn.com, right?
Yep.
That electrical innovation has become such a pervasive part of our vehicle platforms that it's becoming more and more challenging for the average individual to own, work on, and relate to their vehicle.
Diag has to change completely how you think about something made in the 2020s versus anything produced before that. Back in the day, when you have a fault, you would start at your source, your battery, and then you would work your way and see where did the voltage stop.
Correct. And it was 12 volts.
Yep.
And all of our tooling that is readily available, Grandpa's toolbox and at AutoZone,
test light that's hanging in the barn is all made to work on 12 volts.
Made to work on 12 volts. And on an authority, I will tell you that today's vehicles, at the advent of the JL, and of course the Grand Cherokee already had some of this going on. Likewise, Chrysler Pacifica, which we also just recently worked on, is actually working on what appears to be basically Ethernet cable cord in certain conversations.
It is.
And which we typically refer to as Cat5 cable, but you can have Cat6 and so on and so forth. It's these tiny little impulse-based wires that cannot be butt connected. 12 volts can pass over a butt connection.
Yep.
These tiny stranded,
because now we're doing signals, not voltages.
Yes.
Yeah.
Plus, when it comes to voltage, we can have 5-volt references. We can have 2.5-volt references.
We can have 8.
We can have 8-volt references.
Yep.
It is very challenging in that situation to.
And that's all while still operating on a 12-volt system.
Yes. While needing to have multiple batteries present on a vehicle for purposes of electrical sensitivity.
And just because I think the horse, just come up out of its grave, poked its head up.
Okay.
You have 2 batteries, not because one makes your Jeep shut off and start up.
I just, again, a hard stop, okay? The little battery on your JLJT does not start and stop your vehicle.
Nope.
It doesn't.
It's extra capacity. It's an extra CCA increase to allow them to have the capacity to make the electrical load work. So when you remove the little battery and you just have the big battery, you have just reduced your CCA by about 300.
And we are known for our analogies. A lot of people like our ability to attempt to, make things relatable. Think about the next time you book a hotel and you look through the pictures. There are hotels that have an indoor swimming pool.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are hotels that have an indoor swimming pool with a little hot tub right next to it.
Yep.
Okay? That hotel that has the pool and the hot tub simply has more to do when you go to the pool.
And it has more water volume.
It has more water volume.
Yeah.
So as an individual, you're like, hey, I can go down there and I can jump in the hot tub and my kids can jump in the pool and we can all be happy and I can go back and forth and right? Yep. And it's just simply more water volume and it's more things happening that benefits the that pool room experience.
Yep. That's
your big battery and your little battery.
Yep.
You can have just the indoor pool and that will be fine. For a regular vehicle, and you book your hotel, and you're like, yeah, it's got an indoor pool.
It's
that's
okay
cool.
Until you have a leak.
Okay, well, that's a whole other conversation. But there's an analogy there to understand that process. I got to be honest with you. I know when I go out to buy things, I kind of know well enough what things are. I see. I'm a pretty educated and informed buyer, and then I accept responsibility from there on out.
Yeah.
The aux battery is disconnected in the diesel.
Yeah.
And they did a hack job of
course they did.
Of that.
Because there's magic in there.
Correct. And so I guarantee that I have a voltage sensitivity issue.
Yep.
Because the ground is just sitting on top of the battery, and I guarantee they didn't change much of anything else. And so it's enough functionality, but it's quirky.
Yep.
And if I return it and I make it work the way it's supposed to work,
It probably won't have problems.
it probably won't have problems.
Yeah. Imagine that.
So here's the nugget that I was about to drop on you guys. I teased you, and then Scott said something that was worthwhile to talk about, and so we need to jump into that. But I was talking about, it's not isolated to individuals. It's not isolated to shops. It is challenging as a shop when we deal with it because like the 17 Pacifica we just did, we followed all the diag. We thought it was all good. And then you tried to clear it out and work it, and it didn't work. That's so frustrating for us. And we had the Jeep for weeks, and arguably we only get paid for a very small portion of that job. You know what I mean? You're not charging the customer for weeks and weeks and weeks. Likewise, no matter how many times, if you've got 6 hours into a finite electrical job, it's hard to charge somebody for a $15 fuse or fix.
And because it's so much now just a programming communication problem.
Yep.
You can't always just be like, oh, let's pull out the switch and see if it's fixed. Before, you would repair the wire, or you would find the blown fuse or the switch that was faulty, and then you would operate it and go, hey, everything's happy.
Yep.
Everything's working. Now, you almost have to have a therapist come in and talk to the computer and be like, it's okay. We have feelings. We were upset.
Yep.
And when next time we go through that process, it's going to be okay.
And while the Jeep is not self-learning in the sense that we now are exposed by AI and other things, there is a learning process. And learning processes have been part of our Jeep community since the 90s, and other vehicle communities, certainly since the 90s. Learning processes.
Especially with transmissions. They have been adaptive for a minute, and people don't realize it. And I've heard people before like, well, Joe's Jeep has more spunk than the other Jeep. Well, Joe drives it differently than you do. So therefore the transmission adapts are different than yours.
Yep.
And that's why.
And so with that said, in the case of the van, which was my mother's van, so hard to charge full value there anyways. It actually took her to drive it 20 to 25 miles before all the modules sunk together, and then was like, oh, I'm fixed.
Yeah.
We actually turned it out because like you had changed the SCCM.
Yeah. We turned it out by desperation.
Because it was hot and she was done. She didn't really want to keep driving her little Roadster Mini Cooper.
Yeah.
And we turned it out by desperation. Be like, hey, I'm going out of town. I've got a bunch of running around to do.
I'm hitting the tap out button for the moment.
Take it and come back, right? Because obviously our diagnostics led us to this part. You changed the SCCM, which is actually on that vehicle is what we used to call the clock spring.
Yeah.
But it literally took all that time for the modules to sync up to all learn that, hey, the right part's in here.
Therapist was working on it, but there was a lot of modules to talk to.
There's a lot of modules, right? We're not going to be able to cover all the things I wanted to cover today. We're going to have to talk more about the electrical load sensitivity. Here's the piece where I did want to discuss based on like when you go to Toledo, when you go to Jeep Fest, and you're sitting there talking to the people who are actually in the know, right? It's no longer the cursory experience of logging on to the Book of Faces or watching a reel on Insta and somebody spouting off some information.
It's not the Ford guys saying that they made the Jeep.
Yeah, see, that's, correct. It's not saying that.
They're speaking from their perspective.
Right.
And from their reality. And for them, that is true.
Mm-hmm.
But reality is actually different.
Right. There is fact. There is a line in the sand.
Yeah.
Right. Historians agree upon this specific set of events.
But when we don't know the results of that history, we as humans then make up we fill in the narrative. And when we don't understand something, it gets even worse. And that's why right now it is, the Wild West on the internet for our 2020s and up vehicles. Because a perfect example, my JT, one time I went out to work, after work, went and fired up my truck, went to back up, and I had a black screen of death.
Yep.
No backup camera. And it acted wonky the entire way home. And I shut it off at home and went, that's broken.
Correct.
The next morning, I started it up. Backup camera came on, and it has not screwed up since.
Yeah.
It's probably been a year since it did that.
And how many people stop right there, put the brakes on, and they're like, nope,
Oh my God.
come get tow truck, come get it.
My hair is on fire.
Yes.
All it needed to do was go, it's something in its little computer code had gotten and went, nope, I don't like it. And it stopped. That's what computers do. They kind of freeze up. And it still drove. It still steered. It still braked. It still did, all the things that got me home.
Yep.
I just didn't have the right entertainment center
In the
that moment.
process. Yep.
And then at the next time I went through that process, it was like, oh, I'm perfectly happy. That is why electrical load is such an important thing. Because if the battery in that instant was just ever so slightly discharged, or it didn't quite have the CCA in that moment that it needed, that is what causes those issues.
And there is, similar to your cell phone, when there's updates and processor updates.
Yep.
Greg and I were talking internally. We had an update pushed through on our Pixel series phones, and now our phone randomly dies. It goes 20%, and then it counts down like within seconds, and it goes and it shuts off. It never did that before. All of a sudden, this is a thing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
My battery didn't all of a sudden overnight just die that way, or his wife's battery wasn't the same. Something came through, and because of that update that was pushed through, that way that the computer reads what's happening in the parameters has created this glitch.
And we're in this weird situation. Another good example is my wife's loves Subarus, and she drives Subarus. And one of the things she rubs in my face constantly is you can hit the button once and it goes down, and you can pull it back once and it will go up.
Are we talking about the window regulator?
For the power windows.
Okay.
And she's irritated. The JL, now finally you can hit the button and it will go down on its own. But then you have to hold the button
for it to go all back up.
And she is upset that she has to hold that button.
Like a peasant.
Like a peasant. All that makes the difference in that is not the switch, is not the electrical motor, is not the window design.
Right. It's the programming.
It's the programming. Someone could go in that Jeep and tell that, hey, you just see that momentarily, go up until you stop.
Yep. One touch. And we have that we've had it since the JK with one touch lane changes with our turn signals. And the taser, the flash cal, the J scan, all of that can change that in the JK.
Yep.
And we could probably go into the coding and pull the window coding out.
Absolutely you could.
And change that. So this is the nugget that I have been, kind of in a wild degree of anticipation, wanting to share with the world, and then we're gonna have to end on it, right? You've
had blurred in the corner the whole time.
I've had blurred in the corner. Stop it. That's an inside joke. I'm just gonna tell you. I'm just telling you that's an inside joke. It is what it is. So you have to listen to more podcasts.
Yeah.
So. And the beauty of Toledo, the fact that I wanted to talk about all of this, and this is the nerdy stuff that I glom onto, right?
Absolutely.
The people that you're talking to, the bridge of corporate versus civilian, you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. And our own Jeep, where we brought a wolf in sheep's clothing as far as this vintage Jeep that should have limited technological advances, and yet it's one of the most tech-heavy vehicles in the convention center within its own right.
Yeah.
Right? So in that greater area, that manufacturing area, when Jeeps act naughty, right? And we've heard these stories on the internets. We had it when the clutches were bad and a person is unhappy with their Jeep. It has a lot to do with the person experience.
Yeah.
Meaning
customer service.
Meaning you've sold me a vehicle. You've done a recall. Right now, there's a bajillion of us. I'm going to make it a number up. 1 million of us who have recalls on our electric power steering, systems. And I'm still driving the Jeep. I'm still parking it inside. I'm not overly worried.
So I hadn't actually got to teach you.
Oh my God.
Talk to you about this yet. Someone took their Jeep in to have checked, and they checked something in the vehicle. Said, "Oh, yours is fine."
Yeah.
It doesn't need recall.
BS.
I was like, no, that's not a thing.
That's not it. They did that to me on my Ram many moons ago, as far as the tie rod end was concerned, and I remember living that moment, being like, no, we're going through the motions right now. That's not actually real. You just did that as a customer service piece
to make me feel better.
to make me feel better.
Yep.
So if you are that individual who's like, no, this thing is a liability, this is dangerous, then Jeep will eventually buy it back. Or if it's like a Blem tire, right?
Yeah.
That happens in manufacturing. They pick it out of the dealership and they pick it out of the process and they ship it back to Jeep, okay? On good accord, the lots at which house these naughty Jeeps have doubled, quadrupled since COVID.
Of course they have.
Okay? And I have talked about this on air before, and there is basically a dude and an assistant who have detailed tracking,
We could call them counselors.
and they pull in patient number 486.
Yep.
They work on the Jeep for the day. They see if it can recreate its electrical nonsense that it was doing.
Yep.
They attempt to repair it in such a way that benefits the manufacturer.
Yep.
And then most of these are production vehicles, right? But there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of vehicles sitting in purgatory that cannot be sold because they are so electrically glitchy that the dealership technicians cannot figure them out. The individuals cannot figure them out. They have been returned to sender.
Yep.
The guy is retiring.
Uh-oh.
He is within reason the only guy in this area, again, because they're stuck. The guy who does this job, he lives within the area. These lots are they're satellited throughout this couple hour area. They get brought in on trucks, being like, hey, this thing's dead in the water.
Yep.
Much like we had 2 or 3 just in the last couple of weeks, dead in the water Jeeps. Hey, they don't want to turn on. The lights come on, but nobody's home. The stuff on the inside flashes at the occupant. Hey, I'm driving great until I'm not, and then all of a sudden my power steering's gone and my Jeep's going wonky. They get sent back to the center. They get put on this lot. They wait. The guy, there's like a dude and a helper, and he's retiring. So if Jeep didn't know what was going on, because all of his data that he does to say, hey, this is what fixed it, he then sends it back to the mothership, and the mothership takes it and they expand upon it. He's out. So if there was not already a big old hiccup with how the electric and the innovation has challenged our Jeep industry and what we know about it.
I hope his helper was paying attention.
I don't know. I want, for the sake of our listeners and my own interested volition, I'm going to dig into this a little bit more, but
is he available for once in a while consulting after he's retired?
Right. Now, here's the thing, and I will go back. I pull no punches, folks, okay? The business that you are listening to now, the individuals here, we, under good authority from a gentleman named Lowell Babcock, he worked as a subcontractor hand in hand in this corporate-esque experience for decades with Jeep Chrysler Corporation.
Yep.
And in 2014, he told us straight to our face, the company who can understand electricity in these Jeeps will be the one that rises to the top and survives the onslaught of this manufacturing process.
And at that time, most people were driving 3.8 JKs when he told us that.
That's exactly right. It was 2014. We only had 2-3 years of that 3.6 of that new computer. In fact, we didn't even get into computers today, which I want to unpack for people on a technical level. We didn't even have the locked out computers yet.
Yep. And that's another thing I tell people all the time. Just because your JK, your 14, the 18 JK has a key, does not mean electrically it is that different than a JL. The big difference between those two is a JL talks at 1,000 words per minute and the JK talks about 20 words per minute.
I might give it 100.
Oh, that's nice of you.
No problem. I mean, you're absolutely correct.
But when you turn your key, it is a request.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a command.
Not a command. The JK, the 3.6 JK, I mean, even the 3.8 JK, it's still
Yeah.
see the 3.8 JK 711. I'm going to call that 20 words per minute.
Yeah.
We speed up.
That's fair.
We speed up 12 to 14. I'm at maybe 75 words a minute.
Yep.
At that 15 mark, when they lock out that computer, now they're pushing 100 to 200.
Yep.
And by the JL, certainly 18 to 19, that's where I was telling you there's some glitchy, there's some programming issues.
Yeah.
But by 20, it's 1,000+ words a minute. It's rocking and rolling. That's a great analogy you had there, folks. I hope that you were able to follow along. This might have been a little too disconnected, but I saw it tracking nicely as far as from event to.
And if you're don't think it was, we can just blame the producer because he wasn't here to keep us on track.
Yeah, that's fair. And, you can just send your own DJ to contact@sfj4x4.com or hit us up on our text only number. Likewise, the GP event that we need to mention is D-Day, Ohio, happening this weekend right here in Conneaut.
And unlike many people come in, they see the M38, they get excited. They're like, oh, it's a green Jeep. Are you taking it to D-Day? Well, this is a Korean War era Jeep.
Yes.
And that is World War II era.
Yes.
There is a difference.
Yes. For us Jeep nerds, there's a lot of people who don't know nor care,
we could
and that's
drive
okay.
it right on the field.
We absolutely, and I love. I was down there, and there were some green
Yeah.
Jeeps, and that's okay, right? I want that to be okay. I want for you to be able to buy your civilian Jeep, paint it green, and enjoy that for what it is.
I'm gonna be quiet because it makes my eye twitch.
I know. That's, and then we can have those difference of opinion. You don't have to be quiet. You can be like, nope, I don't agree with. That's okay. I want for that average person to be like, hey, I value the military prowess of this vehicle and how it changed not just our country but the world.
Absolutely.
With that said, I went down to pick up my son in that monsoon, that severe thunderstorm, and the Jeep guys were driving. No problem.
Of course they were.
Doors off, canvas on there, and they were just driving their little Jeeps across the beach. And
every year, at least one Jeep gets stuck somewhere on that.
it was
ground.
awesome. I was like, that's so cool. Here they are driving their little Jeeps, and I know they're not that nice in the grand scheme of things, but cool nonetheless. So you can log on D-Day Ohio, Google it, Facebook it, whatever you need to do. Check out what's happening this weekend here in Conneaut. And it's a very GP space, so enjoy it as is. All right, folks, we are going to potentially go to weekend updates after our outro. I think if you want to know what's happening in our lives, hang on there. Until next time, Jeep on.
Jeep on.
Yes! Yeah, I did it!
We did a thing.
We did a thing. Those Scots, it's pretty darn good itself.
So, obviously, over the weekend, you were at Toledo quite a bit. But you also got to do some wrenching.
I did some, and I've been trying to, again, as I shared out to our community here, and I wanted to, I wanted to be accountable to our greater Jeep family. How Stella got her groove back. I'm trying to get back into the swing of things. 2026, it would be an understatement to say has not gone the way that we thought it would.
Yeah.
And I say that from a position of thinking about a catapult. Okay. When I had, as a business owner, I pull no punches to say I do a lot of forecasting, and I try not to get into the business stuff. That's what the American Hustle was supposed to be for. Another podcast project that we own and work on, or used to work on back when Jeff was here.
It's all about intention or expectation.
No doubt.
If you have an intention, well, then as things change, you can roll with the punches. If you have an expectation, it's really hard when things start not going as expected.
There you go. And I think that the challenge was, from a business standpoint and forecasting, there was an expectation.
Correct.
And obviously that wildly changed when we lost key personnel.
Yep.
Our volume has not changed. It's arguably increased.
Yep.
Our great customer base has not changed. Our quality of work that we've put out, not changed. None of that has changed. It is the the ability to meet those needs of people who have weighed in, you know what I mean, and said, hey, yeah, I'd like you to build my Jeep. Hey, I'd like you to make this appearance. Hey, I'd like, blah blah blah. It's just been very challenging when you take two awesome full-time employees and they move on to start their own pursuits. So, with that said, I'm trying to get back into a little bit more of that organic space of things that I enjoyed, and I want to get on the trails. But obviously, we have to be able to meet our customer demands, our customer needs in the same breath. So a lot of travel for me, a lot of windshield time. Obviously, I got to have family time. I have projects and stuff I want to do. So up until this point, I've done some pretty quirky things. I really encourage you, if you have any interest, jump on my social pages. I try to post more Jeep related stuff on Insta, and then more personal and Jeep stuff on the Facebooks. Right? Pick your poison. But one of the things I did for my wife's, so I have to say everything's my wife's. Let's just as far as vehicles are concerned.
Absolutely. What's yours is hers, and what's hers is hers.
No doubt, right? Right. I like my old junky pieces. So the thing is, I get to have everything, so long as she has some of the more reliable, nicer things.
Yeah.
And she suffers from inchitis just like I do. So that really kind of helps spur our conversations, because she was only looking at 40+ inch equipped JTs at Toledo.
Oh dear.
And was like, because somebody was asking. So here's the thing. So I spent some time. So you may or may not notice we got a new enclosed trailer for the business.
It's very nice.
It's very nice. We're going to try and keep it nice. Want to better serve some of these restoration customers, these restorative customers.
I am so happy that the M38 has a home for the moment.
I mean, right? I didn't have to. It wasn't. And in the process of trying to do this, we had tried to talk about saran wrapping it, using shipping wrap to wrap it fully.
We were desperate.
And I've hauled enough open top Jeeps on
open top
on trailers. It's not ideal. It's just not ideal. And there's just risk exposure we don't want to deal with. And God love, Ryan Simons and #NotARestoration, but my son and I will forever tell this story about the fact that a guy flagged us down as we were headed through Texas, and he was like, "You've lost your top," and I'm none the wiser, because it's up on the wedge, and the top of #NotARestoration is like a sail in the wind, 4 feet above the Jeep itself. Less than ideal situations, right? So anyways, we did picked up the new enclosed trailer, which I have to be, shallow and say, hey, blacked out trailer, blacked out Jeep, kind of looks cool to me.
Absolutely, it does.
Got some compliments on it in Toledo. Just, I thought it was funny. But I went ahead and I did the Banks Power Derringer install on it. And that was after a conversation, good friend of the business and another Jeep business owner, Zach, and I were having this conversation. There is out for the world, there is something called an emissions delete. It is technically illegal. How do you get more power out of the modern day diesels? And how do you, in these conversations with innovation comes restriction with federal stuff as well and whatnot.
Change is hard.
Gail Banks, a great name within the automotive industry, has come up with a really fine-tuned product.
Yep.
And I'm going to take that route first.
He's very much a mad scientist. I see him.
Yeah, you really do, right? And in your the way that he relates to the community is the same way that you do, and I see that and can appreciate that. So we're going to take that route first. I'm going to do the legal ways, because as a business representative, we want to be able to install and utilize product that we can reputably install and consult on.
Yep.
Not down talking deletes by any stretch. It's a process that's been done, and it may be better. I don't know. Time will tell, because this whole diesel exhaust fluid conversation is still relatively new in the grand scheme of things.
Yep.
So I did manage to do that. Obviously, prior to that, I did the bumper on the mall crawler, and a big shout out to RT Off Road, because they've been loading me up with parts and pieces to test fit and, kind of install on a slew of Jeeps. I did, and I haven't shared these pictures yet, start a weight reduction program for the JK Rubicon, which you helped me with some last week, so that I can go wheeling. So like when I missed the Rob Morgan's Daddy Jeeps, Hot Girl Summer wheeling, I don't want to miss those opportunities. I want to be able to be like, yes, I've got a rig and I'm ready to go, and I don't have to borrow somebody else's, and I don't,
Yep.
and our time is made efficient in that process. And while it would have been great to wheel with so many people who had volunteered to go along and be like, hey, let's do it together and blah, 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 I would have loved that. This is about doing something for myself.
Yep.
And as a good representative or steward of the business, because until we are able to meet our customer needs, and until I have that vehicle that's ready to rock and roll, I cannot in good conscience go out and be playing if we're not getting stuff done on the home front. And we're getting better. But again, that 2026 expectation was not where I was wanted to be. So big weekend. And I did do some wrenching, and there are some pictures, and obviously we have the big trailer, and we drove all over Toe Nation to get that. And that is what, for the most part, will be, right now is what we're planning to transport to SEMA.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? Maybe I run to Florida with it.
Mm-hmm.
Foreshadowing.
All
right.
So for me, I thought on Thursday we worked through the swimming around in the outside because it was
a little
so
humid.
I swear I sweated 3 Scots out, but
I talked to you at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it sounded like you had ran a straight marathon up Mount Kilimanjaro. And
I'm still not recovered really, but we got all the book shelving done. We got all the corner bracing done. I may or may not have used my truck more as scaffold to reach the high peak, as heights and me are not the best. So we were doing whatever we could to make things happen. So basically all framing is done except for we need to put the headers above the garage doors. But we don't know what that is, nor what wood we're supposed to use. So that is currently paused us to figure that out. I'm also trying to sell the wheels and tires off of my JT so I can have some money for that to, like any battered person, to reinvest some more money into the building.
Right.
Because now I have this bright idea that I want to OSB the outside of it, to then wrap it, to then sheet metal it.
You want to do it too nice.
But that's what makes us.
Yes.
But I was able, to get into the garage some this weekend back on the Model T, got the passenger side shock mount all copied from the other side, welded on. And then I went ahead and pulled the rear end out of it. And I was on this emotional, trying to make decision roller coaster of, do I leave the rear end that was in it alone and just make it drive? And then if it goes growly, bangy, clunky, then I know it's bad. And mainly because I'm trying to save money. And my wife said, no, you have time, take it apart, inspect it, use the best parts you have, and put that in there and try to make it as close to what you want it to be as you can. So I went ahead and pulled it apart. Of course, it was gorgeous inside.
Nice.
Other than the pinion bearings, which are a little crunchy. But we had a 444 gear ratio.
Okay.
That was in the car. And I had a 411 on the shelf.
Okay.
So I was going back and forth. Do I switch it over to the 411? Do I not? When I found the crunchy pinion bearings and I went over and I spun the 411s and those pinion bearings were smooth, I was like, game on.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a good choice.
We are doing things that we would not do on our own in-house builds for someone, doing a gear job. I am using the carrier bearings off the 444.
Oh God.
On the carrier of the 411. using the center chunk because the pinion is pressed in with this really weird double bearing.
Yeah, I was about to say, you're dealing with a 100-year-old car, though.
Yeah.
And 100-year-old parts of sorts.
Yeah.
And you're also not going to be making this a daily driver.
No. And I was hearing the grumpy old man in my head going, those bearings are better than anything you can buy today. So when the races look good and the rollers look good and we have the tools to remove bearings without damaging them.
Yep.
I was like, okay, game on. Got in a little early, took things apart, put stuff in the bat, the clean, and I'm going to assemble a mutt rear end. At the end will be part 444, part 411, and part F1 truck from the late 40s to early 50s. And like always, I told my wife, I know people have referenced this before, but this is truly spare parts.
Yes.
That is what this car should be called.
Yes.
Because everything has been cast off, stuff that wasn't quite good enough to go onto a restoration.
Yes.
And I have been like, I will
spit shine
you into a little bit to make you work.
Spare parts is perfect way to end that one. All right, we got Jeeps to build. Until next time,
Jeep on.
Jeep on.